in the raw. Dearest, beloved, divine friends, family, brothers and sisters, your friend, your brother, me, Hajji, Dr. Roshan Khan here on Sunday, September 4th in Georgetown, Guyana, at my home in Atlantic Gardens. And in the raw. There are, you know, friends and families, few people, very few, whom I trust wholeheartedly and whose wisdom and vision win my respect and adoration for their intellectual capacities, their articulation, their patriotic and prolific tendencies, their vocabularies, their wisdom. And as I said, patriotism to the maximum. Some of those people includes Ralph Ramkaran, and I'll repeat this a bit later when I do Ralph's and Freddie's pieces. Today's newspaper seems to have some very beautiful pieces by both of them. We have a problem in the country in which many people do not read the entire thing, but they like to listen. And this is where my audience in Guyana and around the world comes from. So, I am going to deal on these three postulations in different essays on different points that they wanted to raise, but I'm going to give you my take. I'm going to read, I'm going to comment positively and negatively and fairly as the case may require. So these are some of the people, like I said, Christopher Ram, Ralph Ramkaran, Freddie Kisoon, and even Glenn Lal to a certain extent, even though his style and his mode is not usually to the highest level of intellectual bravado or capacity. We're getting a lot of training, preparation, and research done for him. But the fact remains, he has heart. Glenn Lal has heart. And like yours truly, he's fearless. Who else can I think of that I truly have great faith and listen much to? Those people who are with an independent frame of mind. But I must tell you, even though His Excellency President Dr. Irfan Ali is a politician, he's truly a people's president. And so with that in mind, I will give him credit also, and even Vice President Dr. Barajak there. But on the independent scheme with no political appointments is Christopher Ram, Ralph Ramkaran, Freddie Kisoon, and also even Glenn Lal. And there might be a few others who are not coming to my mind immediately. So let me go to read this part here, ladies and gentlemen, from Christopher Ram. And my operator, my technical person, will show you some of the pictures of Christopher Ram and other such personalities as I mentioned them. So this is the article, friends and family, taken from the KAIETEUR News. EXXON contract was renegotiated by Granger government in 2019, says Christopher Ram. And you know, this is in the raw, and I'm out here alone doing the communication. And the breeze is blowing, and this is good. We didn't have breeze for a while. And recording, doing the communication, doing the reading, doing the articulating. Now, Christopher Ram here is saying that President David Arthur Granger, retired brigadier, and the president, one that I personally loved and respected to a high degree, except for many members of his cabinet of his political institution who tried to destroy me. But him, he was a fair man. So, ExxonMobil contract was negotiated by Granger government in 2019. And I just had a little glance, because I don't usually read the article first. But we know that, that like Freddie Kisoon and Ralph Ramkaran, Christopher Ram is no weakling. Intellectually, with vocabulary, nor with bravado. So we have to respect this man as a Guyanese hero. Be annoyed with him, politically at times for his honesty. Politicians, some of you will do that. And for you others, just like me, just respect the man. Like Freddie, he is a political analyst, but he's not a politician. I wonder what will happen if these guys become politicians and not just political commentators and analysts. Now, why did President David Arthur Granger renegotiate this contract? And he had to be very firm and strong. Why did Trotman sign away our patrimony and brought shame and great losses to our country and to our peoples? These are questions we have to ask. Why is it when Trotman was being questioned, he said the cabinet knows about it and the president knows about why he signed? He said he admitted he read nothing, according to the media. It is said, it is alleged. But he signed, and when he came back, because he was the natural resource minister, technically the grand pooper of oil and gas and everything natural and gold, I heard people had to pay 50,000 US sometime to get their license to deal in gold. I'm not calling names, I'm not alleging anyone even, I'm not making an allegation, but it is a huge rumor from people with wisdom and intellect. They're scared to come out and talk. They're not like Roshan Khan, never afraid, or like Christopher Ram or Freddie Kissoon. Anyhow, why is it that this man signed away? When he returned, he had so much of power. His personality was booming. It was spreading. He was not an ordinary soul anymore. He had lost his humility. Even when I called out to him, he would just merely shake hand and walk away, like he brushed you off. You were nothing to Trotman. I had that experience once. And I said, wow, politics and power do corrupt men's mind and hearts. So he did negotiate President David Arthur Granger. And why did he take away the portfolio? Obviously, he realized that he saw, and he must have studied and know what these oil companies would do to our country, to our government, to nations, to the world, for their profits. And he obviously felt that someone was seriously compromised somewhere, so he ended up taking away that from the, whilst it might be laying principally, philosophically, in the ministry, he became the one to manage it. And the only thing he was really able to capture was the fact that the 2% cannot be deducted as an oil expense. So we were studying Barajagdeo, this man here, this power source, was saying, and we learned from Trinidad, that ExxonMobil wants or is deducting the 2% as an oil expense. And the Trinidadians said it took many, many decades before they realized that they were actually paying for it as an oil expense. But President Granger seems to have had the wherewithal, or the intellectual capacity, right? That intellectual capacity to realize what's going on and to put an end to it. Barajagdeo has worked in himself into it, but right now we have to ask him, you, remember this is in the raw, you commentators and you reporters, ask him about it. What is he doing? Has he clarified it that the 2% cannot be deducted from expenses? And if it is so, that ExxonMobil has to be charged for fraud, if it is so. Now, I'm not an enemy of ExxonMobil, but these are all companies and these investors, so-called investors, because we pay our fair share and interest and everything else. And they, like the President, Dr. Irfan Ali said, they negotiate like a world power. Like a world power. That you don't own your country anymore. Barajagdeo said, it is like they own the country. So this is my take, ladies and gentlemen. I'm now going to read the viewpoint. And remember, this thing is in my hand. So that's why some distortions and the shakings. And I'm now an old man, all right? I'm an old guy. I would accept that, but I'm not still handsome and good looking, right, guys? And I'm going to try to read most of this article. It seems long, and so on. And this is, there he is. And this is his article, ExxonMobil. The contract was renegotiated by Granger government in 2019. The lopsided oil contract signed in 2016 by the former A Partnership for Alliance for Change, APNO and AMC government is riddled with flaws, as it is well known. After binding Guyana to this contract with ExxonMobil and its partners, the David Granger-led government administration began pinpointing some of its mistakes, one of which they've managed to modify. The provision was in regard to the 2% royalty the country presently receives. Chartered accountant and attorney at law Christopher Ram, in a recent talk show aired this week, said the former government in 2019 had managed to renegotiate this provision with the oil company and was in fact successful in stamping its authority to ensure the monies paid were not being recovered by Exxon as an operational expense, ladies and gentlemen, as I explained in my take a bit earlier. Well, it's kudos to former President David Arthur Granger, whom seemed to have gone into the twilight zone. We can't communicate, you can't see him, you can't get a view from him as a former president or any clarity on anything so far. During the public broadcast, Ram insisted, "I know for sure, I'm saying this and I will stand by it. I know for sure in 2019 there was an agreement, a variation of the contract, a renegotiation of a provision of the contract by the Granger administration. Let them say that Ram is not telling the truth." So he said, you could tell me a liar. Ram, will stand his ground. We are so lucky, and I feel proud to have a citizen as Christopher Ram in this country. It must be noted that in 2016 contract, expenses are recovered by the company out of the 75% of oil produced that is set aside as cost oil for which recoverable amounts are to be paid. The PSA does not in any way spell out that royalty is not recoverable. But based on the provisions of the contract, EEP, GL, ExxonMobil, blah, 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 recovers expenses that include the royalty paid to Guyana. Ram is explaining, according to the original contract and the PSA, that is the technique, the methodology that they were supposed to be paid. That's a tomfoolery, trickery, when people go and they're fed and they're sported and they're dined and they're fitted and they're given trips and they're given fantastic receptions and facilities to have a good life. These things happen. Exxon's subsidiary SO Exploration and Production Guyana Limited, EEPGL, in one of its recent financial statements had listed royalty as an expense for the company. Moreover, Vice President Dr. Bara Jagdev, when cornered on the matter, to give an explanation, to give part of the line there is damaged. Now, President, I can answer definitively, President Granger is saying. I have spoken to GRA on the tax side, so because the royalty is not cost deductible, but it is GRA based on our laws, are GRA tax deductible, but they don't come out of the cost bank. So the contractor has to pay them its share, the 2% royalty to the government. I don't know what that means. Can I read that back? Please. President Jagdeo was saying, now I can answer definitively because I have talked. I have spoken to GRA on the tax side, so he can talk. He spoke to people. So I spoke to GRA on the tax side, so because the royalty is not cost deductible, but it is GRA, based on our laws, are GRA tax deductible, but they don't come out of the cost bank. So the contractor has to pay them its share, the 2% royalty of its government. What I see of its pay the 2% royalty to the government. So because it's not tax deductible, that could go to the government according to what he's saying, according to my understanding. Here in the raw, being outside, not getting to concentrate on my desk or my table. This, however, translates to a dilemma. Since the first part of the Vice President's answer, that under the laws of Guyana, the royalty is listed as tax deductible for tax purposes. Remember, he's a tax specialist, you know. So here we have a political commentator who is an attorney at law and one of Guyana's and the Caribbean's foremost tax specialists. What this means is that the royalty is a tax deductible expense for EEPGL. In other words, the royalty is paid out of ExxonMobil's expense with one hand and scooped out back with the other as an expense for which the country must pay. Thank you, Chris. Give me back his photograph, dear man. And give me another one, and another one. 2, 3, 4 different photographs of this giant, the son of the soil. A royalty payment in the oil and gas sector is a percentage of production paid to the owner of the resource minus production costs. So who is the owner? We. But we, you know, ExxonMobil, and I'm not against them, I just want a fair share for Guyana. I applaud them and investors, and we need them in this country. But they must not bilk us. They must not milk us. They must not suck us dry. Royalties are free from costs and charges. It is this observation that pushed the then government to address the situation. This newspaper understands that the coalition was successful in its bid in 2019 with ExxonMobil in the writing agreeing not to recover the royalty payments. While it modified the PSA, was never published. The two parties were clear as to their responsibility to this end. However, after the former government left office in 2020, it is unclear what became of the agreement. So I know President Jagdeo is going to dig like hell to find that agreement. A royalty payment in the oil and gas sector is a percentage only. Okay, I am repeating, remember this is in the raw. I'm in my hand, the phone is in the other. My water is over there, my other phone is over there, my newspaper is here, my book is here, and so on. So sometimes it is understood that the document sought to ensure that the royalty, after being paid to Guyana by the oil company, should not be reclaimed. That is change, one stakeholder highlighted. Where it was unclear whether the royalty could have been reclaimed, the document was provided assuring that it would not, and therefore it should not. But they are claiming it because they believe there was a change in government and they believe they could hoodwink us. So we end up paying the 2% royalty that we give to ourselves technically, or we refunding them technically. These These guys know how to suck and destroy nations. Where it is unclear whether the royalty claim have been reclaimed, and a document was provided assuring it should not, given Guyana was therefore able not only to get assurance, but told the oil company through the assurance that it could not take back the royalty. So the former president was sure to ensure that you cannot take back this royalty in the form of an expense. Additionally, with the change in 2016 EXXON contract, some stakeholders are convinced that if the provision in the contract could have been negotiated as recent as 2019, then the door has been opened to negotiate other terms in the agreement. I, your brother, your friend, Hajji Dr. Roshan, can in the raw concurs with those stakeholders and those men and women of intelligentsia. On the other hand, they pointed out that the decision lies with the current government, and their willingness to pull EXXON back to the table as highlighted in their election campaign promises. Because ExxonMobil, we know, are Mr. Rutledge, with their brains and their talents and skill, are pulling their hairs to ensure that we do not have a renegotiation. They want to sap our nation dry, and if possible, to destroy our country. They don't even want to end bundling of tendering for contracts so that the people in Trinidad and others could send us into the poorhouse. On the other hand, they pointed out that the decision lies with the current government. I read that already. The issue of royalty recovery came to the fore and became a matter of concern with KAIETEUR News reporters during the coverage of the Trinidad and Tobago Energy Conference in May. Found out that for 60 years the oil operator there was giving the twin nation royalty payments on one hand. I have to change the page. And obviously, ladies, they're going to say, taking it back on the other. For 60 years, Trinidad was fooled and robbed here. And so we have a few more paragraphs. Let me finish it off, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family. This is a hot topic for the future of our nation, for our youths. One hand and recovering it on the other, as I suggested. This unfortunate situation, it was explained, befell the CARICOM state after it failed to detail explicitly what costs are recoverable by the oil company in the sharing agreement. These oil companies always want everything for themselves and their shareholders. They want the big life. And let us not forget, I am not anti-EXXON or investors, but I want a fair share for my people. We even pay, ladies and gentlemen, for their big life, for their salaries, for their homes, for their breakfast, their dinners, their lunches, their snacks. We pay for their maid service, their paper towel, and their toilet paper even. Their medicine, their medical, we pay for everything, for everyone who is in the administration and the control of the industry, except the Guyanese workers, who are given the pittance and the low food and the low benefits and no increases like the Trinidadians and others. And they find excuses why Guyanese should not get more money. Research on EXXON's treatment of nations where finances are concerned deeply underscores the need for authorities here to be extremely cautious. I agree with that. We agree with that. We must learn from Trinidad and the other nations where they were bled, dried, and left in the states of bankruptcy. I know with Barajag there, with Excellency President Dr. Irfan Ali, Mark Phillips, Prime Minister, the entire cabinet and the government. This will not happen in Guyana. They will not leave us hungry and dried and dead. That is why I say to our government, leave the gold in the earth. No more investors for now. Leave the gold where it is. In 2010, the Oil and Gas Journal said that ExxonMobil Corporation had agreed to pay a US $32.2 million federal fine to resolve a whistleblower's claim that its affiliates knowingly underpaid natural gas royalties on federal and American Indian leases. The U.S. Department of Justice said the claim arose from allegations that MOBIL Natural Gas Inc., MOBIL Exploration and Producing US Inc., and their affiliates systematically underreported the value of the gas taken from the leases from March 1st, 1998 to November 30, 1999. And what happened? And consequently, paid less in royalties to the federal government and various Indian tribes at the moment. Guyana is conducting audits of EXXON's post-2017 bills, which total US $9 billion. The consortium, which is made up of local and foreign auditors, is reportedly expected to complete the same sometime this month. So our government is aggressively pursuing their expenses and auditing ExxonMobil. And look at what they did to the American Indians. Look at what they did even to the American government. It is expected that the audit team should keep an eye out to determine whether the royalty was in fact not being recovered or being underpaid by Exxon and partners, friends and family. This is what these people do to us, and we need men like Ralph Ramkaran, men like Christopher Ram, from whom this reading and this presentation is based. Freddie Kissoon, we need these men. Even Glenn Lal has been speaking lots on the oil and gas. My friends, my brothers, my sisters, please share this with others whom you know, and read it, listen carefully. I know many like to listen to my presentation and my voice because they don't have the time to read, and many cannot read and comprehend the games, the tricks, the explanations that sometimes are embedded. Your friend, your brother, this is Hajji Dr. Roshan Khan in the Raw. Saying thank you for joining in, and farewell, friends.